Has Senator Schumer, in your mind, acquiesced to Trump?
That's a question that is best addressed by the Senate.
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
What's the difference between a shutdown and a showdown to you?
Next question.
Have you lost confidence in him? The fact that you guys see this so.
Next question.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those who observe the holiday. And here is my annual reminder to you that St. Patrick was Italian, baby. That's right. Look it up. You'll see that I'm right.
How dare you?
All right, so we got all the controversial stuff out of the way early in this video. Let's get to the subject matter that we want to talk about here, which involves these two gentlemen. You see Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, both Democrats, both from the People's Republic of New York City, and both you would think would be in lockstep in this partisan battle of chicken that was over the continued funding of the government or an impending government shutdown. Well, there was a break in the ranks between these two as Chuck Schumer flip-flopped within a 24-hour period last week over his opposition to the GOP continuing resolution that all but one Democrat voted against. Chuck Schumer blinked first in the battle with Donald Trump, agreeing to fund what he called a very bad CR, leaving fellow Democrats aghast as to what the hell he was thinking. This led to growing questions Friday and over the weekend concerning a growing rift within the Democratic Party. We're going to talk about this growing rift and see what Jeffries and other members of the Democratic Party, including some media figures, have to say about this. But before we get to all that, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you're seeing here in this or any other video on the channel, smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends. All that really, really good stuff. Because all that's going to help our channel continue to grow via the YouTube algorithm. As always, gang, thank you so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. You know I appreciate all of those efforts, whether it's right here on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, or our short videos on Instagram and Facebook. Whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. And for all you newbies out there who may be finding the channel for the first time, I think you picked a pretty good video to watch, and I hope it earns your subscription as we talk about this break in the ranks between Jeffries and Chuck Schumer over Schumer's flip-flop on the continuing resolution and helping Trump continue to fund the government. To start off with, we're going back in time to last Wednesday. This is Chuck Schumer on the floor of the Senate discussing the CR that passed the House.
Funding the government should be a bipartisan effort, but Republicans chose a partisan path, drafting their continuing resolution without any input from congressional Democrats. Because of that, Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR.
This is a very important thing when you think about the makeup of the Senate. To stop a filibuster, you have to invoke cloture. Cloture can only be done in the Senate when you have 60 senators agreeing to stop that filibuster in order for whatever the pending legislation is to be heard on the floor of the Senate. At this point on Wednesday, Chuck Schumer seemed to be heading towards a government shutdown. In fact, hashtag Schumer shutdown was all over social media because of this speech here.
Our caucus is unified on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass. We should vote on that. I hope our Republican colleagues will join us to avoid a shutdown on Friday.
So that was Chuck Schumer's position on Wednesday, 2 days before the impending deadline for this government shutdown. He wanted to pass a continuing resolution that would fund the government a couple of weeks to April 11th and give people time to negotiate what a longer and expanded CR would be. He wanted to have Democrat input and do horse trading here with the GOP. Now ask yourself, how would this be a good thing for President Donald Trump, for the House majority, for the Senate majority, to look weak in this first real battle in the legislature over continued funding of the government. Do you think it would look good to them that they would have to go to the Democrats in order to horse trade to get a little bit of what they want? Obviously not, which is why the GOP really took a hardline stance on the CR, which again was voted on with primarily GOP support. But oh, what a difference a day makes, 24 little hours for Chuck Schumer.
The next day.
Which brings us to Thursday, after a full day and night of Schumer shutdown trending on social media and Democrats calling to resist Donald Trump, whatever the cost may be. Schumer once again took to the floor of the Senate to talk about what he called a Hobson's choice, a no-win situation. That being,
either proceed with the bill before us or risk Donald Trump throwing America into the chaos of a shutdown.
Now again, that spin from Schumer, nobody was buying that because it all came down to him. Would he blink in this game of chicken and give Trump a victory? Or would he spit in the face of Trump and the Republicans, allow the government to be shut down in order to use that as a bargaining chip, which historically has not really worked? Schumer, doing what he always does, took the easy way out.
This, in my view, is no choice at all. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. For sure, the Republican bill is a terrible option. It is not a clean CR. It is deeply partisan. It doesn't address far too many of this country's needs. But I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option. And before I explain why, let me be clear about one thing. No one on my side of the aisle wants a government shutdown. Members who support this CR do not want a government shutdown. Members who oppose this CR do not want a government shutdown.
I'm a gutless flip-flopper.
So basically, Chuck Schumer cut the Democratic Party down at the knees. This posture of resistance was undermined with one speech from Schumer, and this left a very bad taste in many Democrats' mouth. But it also became a talking point for media to jump on, as you'll see here in this press conference with Hakeem Jeffries immediately after Schumer's speech here on Thursday on the floor of the Senate. These are clips from a much longer press conference asking for Hakeem Jeffries' reactions to his counterpart in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, basically undercutting all of the efforts that he took in the House to try to stop Donald Trump.
Has Senator Schumer, in your mind, acquiesced to Trump?
That's a question that is best addressed by the Senate. The vote hasn't taken place yet, and the House Democratic position is very clear.
Okay, before we get to being very clear, did you see how he deflected the question? Well, that needs to be answered by the Senate, whether or not Schumer acquiesced to Trump. But now he's going to go into his stump speech about what House Democrats believe. And frankly, he has the luxury to do this because nothing happens without both houses of Congress acting on legislation. His side lost. He did all he could. He kept all his members together. But now the leader, his counterpart on the other side, is basically waving the white flag at Trump a day after he said that he was united with Democrats across government for a clean CR to April 11th.
Our caucus is unified on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass.
Now, keep in mind, again, this conference happened after Schumer's announcement on the floor of the Senate, but before any votes were taken. So he was still hopeful that something would break here and that maybe there would be a revolt in the Senate against Chuck Schumer. That didn't happen, of course, but Hakeem Jeffries still took the time to make his pitch as to why this CR was bad.
We strongly oppose any efforts to cut the health care of the American people, veterans benefits, and nutritional assistance, all of which are in the partisan Republican bill. We're going to continue to support Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, and public schools, while Donald Trump and House Republicans try to take a chainsaw to these important priorities of the American people. We'll see what happens over in the Senate. There are still undecided and undeclared senators, and we anxiously await that vote. Next question.
Did you hear that? We're going to go to instant replay on this, make it a little louder for you.
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
Jeffries, in my opinion, still a little bit of shock here that Schumer did what he did. So he is shucking and jiving. He is dipping, ducking, diving, dodging everything when it comes to his reaction or his opinion of what Chuck Schumer did in the Senate.
Thanks.
Mr. Leader, first, can you clarify, are you encouraging your Senate colleagues to vote no on cloture, not just the bill itself?
We've been very clear. We strongly oppose the reckless Republican spending bill. Period. Full stop. Our position, repeatedly articulated this week, speaks for itself.
Again, avoiding the question. The press asked him if he's going to encourage individual members of the Senate to basically countermand whatever Schumer was doing and get them to go along with his scenario, which he believed to be the Democrat scenario, not Schumer's newfound cowardice, I guess, in his response the day after saying he was unified with Hakeem Jeffries in the Democrat position.
Betrayal!
Some Democrats have expressed concerns that seeing how the process had played out this week will set a tone for the upcoming fiscal year. Do you share those concerns, and what have you learned from this process for the next fiscal year?
Our general view is that we do not want to shut down the government, but we are not afraid of a government funding showdown. And we will win that showdown because we stand on the side of the American people.
What's the difference between a shutdown and a showdown to you?
Next question.
He does it again. It's a valid question. What is the difference between a shutdown and a showdown? I guess the showdown happens before the shutdown, or does it continue on after a shutdown? I don't know. That's a big dodge right there from Hakeem Jeffries. What do you think he meant by that? What is the difference between a shutdown and a showdown? Is there a difference? Let's make this the topic of the day. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Leader Jeffries, Senator Chuck Schumer from your state, he clearly has a different view of this than you. He is not saying let's go back to the negotiating table. He's saying let's take this vote. So have you lost confidence in him, the fact that you guys see this so differently?
Next question.
Is this his new favorite phrase? Next question, to avoid the tough questions. Chuck Schumer really put Hakeem Jeffries in the hot seat here. There's no doubt about that. I'm sure he didn't expect that. And I'm sure he didn't gather together into the groupthink, into the hive mind to figure out how best to spin Chuck Schumer, to not make him look like he made an error, but also to speak his mind about how his move was really in error. It's a delicate balance that Hakeem Jeffries is trying to do here. He's trying to appear statesmanlike. He doesn't want to talk badly about a fellow colleague, let alone a senior member of the party leadership. But he's clearly perturbed about what Schumer did.
You hung me out to dry.
Thank you.
Back to my colleague's question. Can you clarify what you mean by showdown versus shutdown? That you guys are ready for a showdown, but not a shutdown. What is a showdown versus what may occur in the Senate?
Listen, it speaks for itself.
No, it doesn't, Bob. No, it doesn't.
Hakeem Jeffries here is still in the throes of shock here, in my opinion, over what Chuck Schumer did. Chuck Schumer, seeing that the blame for a government shutdown would be laid at his feet, he chickened out politically. He showed political cowardice in the face of the pressure cooker that was this game of chicken between Democrats and Republicans. Hakeem Jeffries, thinking that he had a partner unified in his own position, now has to deal with the fallout of Schumer's flip-flop here. And while not trying to go at this senior member of his party, remember, they're from the same state, from the same city. Schumer's been a leader for decades. Hakeem Jeffries, still relatively new in the leadership of the Democrat Party. He doesn't want to speak out against him because that would lead to ramifications against Hakeem Jeffries personally, but he also wants to express his dismay and displeasure for Schumer's flip-flop here that, in my opinion, might have been a personal way out. He may have hit the eject button for himself to get off the sinking ship before every other Democrat would have gotten a chance to do so.
Well, boys, it's a very lovely ship. I think you should go down with it.
And when we come back from the break, we're going to look at some other reactions from Democrats in government and in media concerning Chuck Schumer's flip-flop, leaving Democrats holding the bag here. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. In the wake of Schumer's flip-flop from Wednesday to Thursday, the CR being passed by the Senate on Friday, Trump signing it into law to avoid a government shutdown, Democrats had some thoughts over the weekend about this entire scenario and what Chuck Schumer did. We're going to start with James Clyburn here and move on to other reactions.
You know, Hakeem Jeffries did a great job bringing the House Democrats together. All but one voted to not give a blank check to this president. And then it goes to the Senate for the first 24 hours. They seem to be on board, and then all of a sudden, there's this change.
Like Dems don't just have a messaging problem, they got a leadership problem. The Chuck Schumers of the world, the Hakeem Jeffries, they should all step down, and any Dem who isn't fighting for the people and standing with the party should be primaried. Like, how can you say the bill sucks, but you're passing it anyway? Like, you're not going to even try to, present something different? Right. Try to negotiate nothing?
What happened in the 24-hour period, I'm not sure. But nobody should be blaming Hakeem Jeffries for that. So when I say, you see people saying, well, we need new leadership. Jeffries played it by the rules. He played the game the way it ought to be played. And somehow he got blindsided.
This has been a rough 72 hours for Democrats. I want to play some of what Democratic Senate Leader Schumer told me on The Lead on Friday about his decision to vote with the Republicans to fund the government. Take a listen.
A government shutdown gives Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Doge almost complete power as to what to close down because they can decide what is an essential service. If they determine that SNAP, kids shouldn't get food, is not essential, they can just cut it out summarily. They could fire half the workers in the federal government. It would have been a far worse consequence.
So he's saying that the path that House Democrats wanted would have presented a worse consequence. Is he wrong?
He's absolutely wrong. I mean, look at the reality of the votes, right? We had all but one Democrat in the House that voted for this, so that's 212 Democrats in the House. And then you had the vast majority of senators vote for it or vote against it as well. And so the idea that Chuck Schumer is the only one that's got a brain in the room and the only one that can think through all of the pros and cons is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, let's talk then about the elephant in the room. There has been reporting about mumbling within the caucus about the possibility, an appetite for primarying Senator Schumer. Are you hearing those same whispers? Do you think that is the conversation Democrats should be having right now?
I'm not saying that Democrats should be having that conversation, but I do know this. The Democrats some Democrats are having that conversation. I've heard that before I left our retreat. As you know, the House Democrats were in retreat this past weekend, out in Lansdowne, Virginia. And yes, there's a lot of discussion going on there, especially when word got out that there was a big change in the 24 hours. We went into that convention solidly in support of what we had done what we thought was the Democratic way of going forward for the next several days. And then all of a sudden we started getting word that no, there's been a reverse of course here. And sure, that disappointed a lot of people, and a lot of discussions are going on.
Some progressive groups are calling for new leadership in the Senate for Democrats. Even House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, your leader, he was asked if he supports Schumer as leader of the Senate Democrats, and he said, next question. Do you think Senate Democrats should replace Chuck Schumer?
I think Senate Democrats have to sit down and take a look and decide whether or not Chuck Schumer is the one to lead in this moment.
After watching all those reactions, it's kind of hard to believe that the Democrats are all one big happy family, unified in their opposition to Donald Trump. It seems like instead that this growing rift within the party is a product of lack of leadership. We've mentioned before in prior videos how the Democrats seem rudderless at this point, how their only plan is to act like petulant children, and how petulance is not real resistance. In this first real battle, Donald Trump ate their lunch. He got everything he wanted in that continuing CR because the Republicans are the ones that drafted it, and Democrats acquiesced. They may not have acquiesced in the House, but certainly in the Senate by letting it go forward, and the person to blame for that is Chuck Schumer. So now instead of having Schumer Shutdown laid at his feet, he has the wrath of his own party. You should see social media right now talking about Chuck Schumer and how he sold out the Democrats and how there should be new leadership in the Senate going forward. The rumblings have become very loud coming from the left, and this break in the ranks only spells opportunity for Republicans and Donald Trump. But hey, that's just my opinion on this whole situation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let's get into them together. And as always, like and share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows. What do you think about this growing rift? Does it really exist? Do you think that Hakeem Jeffries and newer, younger Democrats are going to step up and maybe take Democrats in a further extreme fashion? Or do you think that Chuck Schumer will survive this and be able to maintain his leadership in the Senate? Let's talk about this video together, as well as all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.